I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why these things keep happening. I don't know why they keep spreading to other people. I've tried so many times to build a team to try to understand. And regardless of the setbacks, progress was made, but the story continued to get stranger. I think it's about time I go in. I go deep. This is the audio logs for the curious case of Dakota Frandsen. I don't know if you're going to believe what I'm about to say. Quite frankly, I stopped caring a long time ago. Been a while since I sat down and done one of these. Recently had to move, so had to put a lot of projects on standby. Which, for anybody who knows me, the situation was irritating, but we've overcome it. I am currently in the new house. Most of my stuff is unpacked. And finally got my car out of the shop. So, almost at full capacity. Some interesting things have happened since my last update. I may have not been able to sit down and record these sessions, however, as always, it doesn't stop the reports from coming in. Chris was kind enough to help cover for a couple weeks until I could get situated into a temporary house, which was a family friend, and I do appreciate him for it. Today also happens to be his birthday, apparently. So, Chris, if you're listening, happy birthday. Oh, man. Because my car's been in a shop and the weather's been relatively nice, there were certain days where, because the family friend's house was happened to be within walking distance of where I worked, I would just walk. Which, thankfully, the area of the city is mostly lit because I usually go to work about midnight. I believe the incident was just before we made the official move. Local news reports released it July 25th that footage of green lights in the sky was captured in a town not too far from here. However, there's another report that actually comes from local law enforcement that caught my eye, which right now the only thing I feel that actually ties to it is the timing of the events. A small aircraft was called into law enforcement, flying erratically and potentially having crashed down, plume of smoke, the whole shebang, not too far from here. I have a rough location determined. What's interesting about this incident is that even though a plume of smoke was spotted, once officers arrived at the scene where they believed the small aircraft went down, nothing was there. I plan on reaching out to some of my contacts to see if they know of any recovery efforts. If, since the Roswell incident, if our friends from the stars happen to figure out ways to quickly retrieve down aircraft before someone gets captured. I have strong reason to believe that the increased approach towards civilian personnel outside of any government affiliations may be due to the fact that they realized that the government was not going to play ball unless they were forced, which could explain a lot of today's events. Now, like I said, my car having been in the shop, I have yet to officially examine the area. In theory, if it was an aircraft from outer space that dealt with nuclear technology, the radiation coming off of the craft could likely still be picked up. There would be a higher concentration of radioactive elements in the area just because of it rubbing off of the craft itself. Interestingly enough, and this is a report I actually have filed with MUFON, one of the nights I was walking home from work. Initially I was slightly frustrated due to the fact that I managed to get done early within like an hour's time, so I walked back. It was roughly 11:30 at night. Oh look, there it is. This incident took place on August 12th. I was in Twin Falls, Idaho, walking to the temporary house from work. And being that it was a relatively clear night, I decided to play the CE5 protocols by Dr. Stephen Greer. Play those protocols in the time it took me to walk from my place of work to the temporary house, which was roughly 15-18 minutes walk, depending on if I had to stand anywhere funny because of people not watching out for the big black mass on the side of the road. About 12 minutes into my walk, I look up. I was next to a church, and all of a sudden I see this craft come out of the darkness. Possibly it was materializing, but I didn't register. I initially thought it was like an owl or something. A really big bird. It was in the darkness. I could barely just make out a generic shape. Once it got into the light of the full moon, however, I realized it was a dark gray diamond. Of course, once I registered the fact that I was likely dealing with a legitimate UFO sighting, and one with what would be the most incredible detail that I've ever captured on a personal matter, I go to pull out my phone to try to get some pictures, because the object was fucking close. It was not just some random shape in the sky. This thing was flying low, and I could make out details of the craft itself. It was that close, and I have 20/20 vision. You know, going through the usual questions, I have mostly perfect hearing for someone my age, perfect eyesight. I wasn't sick, aside from having to take maybe an allergy pill every now and then, because the house I lived at was that of a heavy smoker, and I am allergic. I had nothing going on that could have altered my perception to make it to where it wasn't as reliable. And by all accounts, from what the MUFON investigator later told me, yes, there were some. When the incident that the police report, the earlier incident, they'd say that the major Air Force base in the area was flying maneuvers, but we can get more specific than that. There was absolutely no chatter on social media whatsoever. I've looked. By all accounts, this was a legitimate sighting, and my ass was the only one that actually saw it. Fucking figures. I'm personally kicking myself for not being able to get photos, because that would have been an incredible shot for how close that was. But, like I said, the second it started to I realized I was getting ready to try to capture evidence. I was seeing it. It disappeared on me. Disappeared behind some clouds, and conveniently, those clouds seem to be affected by some sort of random airburst. Now, there's reports of certain craft being able to maneuver through without seemingly affecting surrounding environments. However, a lot of people don't seem to register the fact that if a craft is shifting realities, shifting spectrums, turning on cloaking devices, there's going to be heat. That's why you could probably have those, everybody makes fun of the cloud-shaped UFO reports. If there's enough humidity in the air, it could cause something like that to happen. There's going to be an intense enough heat to where if someone is standing too close, best case scenario, they're going to feel like they get a really nasty sunburn. And this has been verified to have happened with reports out of Louis Elizondo stating that certain pilots that have chased these craft suffered severe burns. There was too much there to really ignore it, and one thing I find kind of irritating, I understand why they do it, is to avoid discouraging people reporting, but I'm fully okay with speculating. There's a part of me that still feels like I'm going insane dealing with this type of thing. There's no real help out there, except for other contactees. And I know that certain people who seem to be damned and determined to constantly harass and message members of my team involved in Bonkers, in spite of, claiming we're fakes and all that fun jazz. I know what's going on is real, and I have people who are more intelligent than me backing up that there is some substantial evidence to back my story. Granted, those who try to doubt me, their motivations, their affiliations, they rather choose to deal with severe criminals than keep their own images clean. And I know that there's a few that like to listen to my stuff to try to get pieces to incriminate, to only in saying ways sort of fires, but if I'm not specifying your name and you're getting offended, sounds like you have a guilty conscience. I am not doing this to get famous. If I do, guess what? Fame, money, and stress shows the true character of people. Fame and money allows people to do more of what they want to do. So if I'm able to build a substantial income to where I get to explore these things full time, I'm going to take that opportunity because I want to know and I want to be able to help people who I know are feeling insane. As I stated in previous episodes, Elena Denon recommended me a recall course that's taught by Tony Rodriguez and Jackie Kerner, I think her name is. feel like an asshole for not saying it right. Yeah, we teach recall courses to try to help people who believe they may have had similar experiences. Some things they can do to try to help themselves understand and substantiate what's happened to where it can be taken as credible evidence in the field of research. Something that seems like to be a dying art these days. Jackie Kenner, that's her name. Well, like I said, unfortunately, due to the move, it wasn't until recently I've been able to catch up on certain things. And Tony seems to share similar sentiments to what I do. There's a fascination in these communities with people who haven't, or at least don't believe they've ever experienced anything super substantial, that this is cool, this is awesome, this is amazing. No, it's not. It's fucking horrifying. It makes you question your sanity every single moment. And once again, to those people that tried to shoot me down just because I pissed them off and called them out for wanting to affiliate with criminal elements, that kind of makes them even bigger pricks. I've questioned my insanity the entire time. That's why I write the books. It's why I do the media appearances. Because it wasn't until I was exposed to this media that I found out that there were others who dealt with certain situations even longer than I have, and been able to reach out to them to understand things better. And this constant mysticism that, oh, I'm so lucky to have these experiences. You don't want to know what I know. I am about a third of the way through the course to which they talk about establishing a timeline of events to the best of your memory, so that way you have something to go off of. Thankfully, because of my books, Dakota, and the latest edition that's going to be released around the same time as the first volume of this series. And I gotta sneeze again. I've already started that process. And due to the events of my former associations, I have a lot more to work with. I also, recent incidents that occur on episodes of the Bonkers show. One that just happened yesterday at the time of recording this. These include trances. Ah, shit, that just reminded me of something. There was... Okay. The incident today, I started going into a trance after many of us started to report the sound of a woman singing and piano music playing. As soon as I started to let myself fall into the melody, you could literally feel the vibration, like the instrument was being played in the same room as you. I started going into this trance. I saw what looked like a portal. Things flowing through it. They looked like souls, maybe. A couple weeks before that, we were talking with a gentleman who goes by the name of Moonblade. We were doing an episode talking about Nazi experimentation and Nazi connections with the UFO reports. We started to hear what sounded like CE5 tones coming through, and all of a sudden I get this vision of this metal moon-shaped craft that had like a concave indent towards the bottom. It looked like it was literally right outside, and then all of a sudden I started getting this compulsion to try to trace the kind of craft I saw, then started writing these messages. I wonder what would happen if I were to lace those into the same procedures that allowed me to establish this protection tone for the seed, my own C5 protocols. Which, if you're listening to the HD copies of this volume, some of those will be available with this purchase. Make it to where people can access it anywhere they go, if they need it. Try to keep the price relatively cheap, so that way anybody who might need it can access it. I want to run those images through. The text to it initially kind of reminded me a little bit of Enochian, but I was able to come to find some information about Maria Orsic, which was a medium who was supposed to be, well, she was the big-time medium that will influence a lot of Nazi UFO subjects, and who was claimed to have gone missing in 1945, believed to have escaped the oncoming army's onslaught and made it to Aldebaran, to a planet near Aldebaran, which is a known island, which has a few planets occupied. One is a colony of Anunnaki descendants. Another is, there's Aryan, which, according to Craig Campobasso, have a more Asian appearance. They look human, but they have more of an Asian appearance. That there's the Ahil, which are a Lyran ethnic group, highly physical, emotional beings. Heavily sexual as well. And gotta admit, Miss Maria was not a bad looking woman. And according to Chris, apparently there was certain soldiers who reported seeing a moon-shaped craft during their time in Germany. So, that's definitely an interesting connection. Something I'm going to have to look into further. As far as digging back into my own past, understanding more of what happens, a lot of the visions I've been getting, a lot of the visions I've gotten, I will continue doing that for the purpose of trying to understand my own case so I can try to help others better. Because I know of one other subject that's come across on my shows who is dealing with similar regression issues, where they're seeing reptilian-like beings biting the heads off of what look like humans. He believes he's seen visions of a war that took place that caused the Lyran people to evacuate and colonize other places such as Aldebaran and the Pleiades. Then there's the branch off, known around the Alconi star system, that is believed to have gone into a bit of a civil war with part of their faction siding with the Draconians, possibly with the hope of taking them over. I don't know how crazy that sounds, and there's people I've talked to who have started asking what kind of weed I'm smoking. I fucking wish I was using drugs, because half this shit would probably make a lot more sense. But I kept myself clean because I knew that there would be people small-minded enough to directly assume that is the reason why. these things happen was because I'm some fucking junkie. Not like most of them would know how to judge. And a couple days before that moon incident, we'll call it, I believe my wife and my kids stopped by to visit me in the new house. Things in that dream turned sexual. Kids looked away, and they took off. But towards the end of it, I remember seeing kind of look like a selfie of me and my wife, with her saying, "In 19 days, I will see you soon, my love." And there was that on that little picture, I should say, to correct myself here before I stumble myself. It had 19 days written on it. If I recall correctly, at the time of recording this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So hold on. If I remember correctly, the vision happens on August 25th. 2 weeks, 14 days is going to be this Thursday. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Am I getting this right? I don't feel like I'm getting this right. Sorry, it's just I want to make sure I'm getting this information correct because there's so much here to work with. I don't know. And funny, a video from Elena just posted up on YouTube as I'm trying to get my dates right. It's just, like I said, it's very strange. It's hard to deal. It's hard to tell some days. So wait a minute, hold on, I got the date wrong. It was the 21st that we did that interview, so it would have been that Thursday on the 18th. 14 days. Something's gonna happen tomorrow. Let's see. And for that is where I end this session. Stick around, ladies and gents. It's only getting weirder.